and the product management industry is full of individuals who don't have fancy degrees at all.
Help explain two things. What is the distinction in the job profile? And point number two, can a non-techie become a PM in tech? What are the general working conditions for Indians abroad?
uh, by the second year, I realized that engineering, perhaps is not for me, or slightly disenchanted with just being an engineer. I wanted to be something more than an engineer. I used to work on Banega Crorepati as well. A lot of the research that we used to do was like, what do we want to showcase in a new season of
Okay.
Banega Crorepati?
Shark Tank India. I'm not sure if you have watched it,
Uh,
but I can hold conversations about equity and investment with my mother-in-law. I've seen Amitabh Bachchan up close there.
right. I have many times. I took my entire family as well. I'm telling you, anyone who has written MBA essays in their life
I
has a very
agree.
clear
Yes.
sense of how their life has progressed so far. If there's
Wow.
one skill which is like most useful, which I would rate as like the top skill that like product managers require, I would say it's writing.
Sure. What was the entire process of landing at NYU?
It was like I realized within 2 or 3 weeks of being at NYU that like I wanted to be here. So um, I'll tell you, like as an international student, like you want to have a plan B and a plan C and a plan D. Basically, what I do now is build conversational technology that can help Alexa.
Hi, if you're new to my channel, my name is Shatakshi and I am on the Shatakshi show where I invite a lot of dear friends, a lot of my mentors and a lot of people with whom I rubbed shoulders in the last 10 years as I've worked in management consulting, strategy, public policy, entrepreneurship and international affairs. A lot of these people are going to be industry leaders, public policy bureaucrats and of course senior managers across the industry. So feel free to hit on the subscribe and the notification button so that you get notified whenever I'm doing cheers with them on chai and you get to do cheers with me on chai as well. And with that, let's get started.
Welcome once again, Abhinav, on the Shatakshi show. That's what we've been calling, and very excited to have you on this show from different parts of the world altogether. We have known each other, if I'm not wrong, for 2 years, ever since you were a GJI masterclass speaker on product management. So yes, welcome once again.
Thank you. We're very excited to be here.
Me too, and look forward to unfolding your journey with us. So, Abhinav, let's start from the start. I would really like to understand what's your story are, especially from childhood. If you could just explain where did you grow up, how was growing up in certain part of India was for you, and then what other decisions did you take and why did you take them? Let's get started with that.
Great. So I was born in Patna, which is in the Indian state of Bihar.
Right.
And I lived there for the first 6 or 7 years of my life. 1991, liberalization happened. My father,
Right.
who was working in Bihar in a very small town called Sindri, in the government sector, decided to take the leap, leave the comfort of a government job, and move to Delhi. So I moved to Delhi with my family in 1992 as a 7-year-old, 6-year-old, I would say, and
Sure.
and then be, like from childhood, I was very fortunate to be in part of a household where so from both my parents I inherited like different stuff. I would say from my father, like he had a very scientific bent of mind. He had studied science,
Sure.
and he was someone who encouraged me to take sort of more interest in physics and maths, and like doing experiments on the terrace on Sundays was something
Nice.
very normal for me and my father. And my
Wow.
mother, on the other hand, always used to say like, you should read some literature. Why don't Sherlock Holmes, or start reading stuff. So I was exposed to both of those things from childhood, I would say. So it's curious that when I like as I was growing up, I had a side to me which was very tech geeky. Uh,
Sure.
so there were like tech magazines that I used to read when I was in class seventh or eighth, very
Wow.
young. And but at the same time, like I had a side which was like like let me just go into my corner with a book and not be disturbed for the entire day. So I grew up in Delhi. I stayed there uh, till about 2004. And
Okay.
I moved.
Also,
Yeah.
sorry to interrupt. I also want to know what kind of books were you reading and what kind of experiments were these on the terrace, if you could share a few of them, if you recall.
Yeah, so the experiments were like they're very silly now. I was like probably in class three or fourth when I was doing these experiments. These are like,
Sure.
make a bulb on your own and make like a small fan on your own. So they
Wow.
had like wires and circuits
Yes.
and
There were games
capacitors.
also, if I'm not wrong, that
Sorry.
could be. At least my elder brother used to purchase these games. Actually, I would give him not the credit. My father made him purchase such games where you could do these circuits. So yes,
Exactly, and they had
go
like
on.
these little capacitors, batteries, things that you could just like play around with. You can make like a burglar alarm, so something that
Wow.
like
And
not,
you're in class three.
yeah, not an actual burglar alarm. I must
Sure.
say something like if you
Proxy.
press on this part of like a cardboard, there would be an alarm that would ring. So something that
Nice.
functions like a burglar alarm. So I used to do like a lot of those things on like Sunday afternoons used to be. Especially winter afternoons, I have a very good memory of me spending time.
And which part of Delhi is this, if you recall?
So I was in Vasant Kunj,
Okay. South
South
Delhi.
South Delhi,
Got it.
and this was like like late 90s. So
Very
it was
nice.
very different from the Vasant Kunj that you find today,
Now.
which is
Oh,
like
is
a
it?
very, very posh place. At that time, it
Correct.
wasn't posh at all. Like there was like one
Oh.
bus that connected Vasant Kunj to the rest of Delhi, which ran in like
Oh, wow.
or something. So yeah, we had a lot of time to ourselves, I guess. Like all of us did, 90s kids. But I remember
Right.
because life was like a lot slower than it is today. We used to spend a lot of time doing different things.
That's true. And if you could share a few books that you were reading on your mom's recommendations back then.
Yeah, I started with Sherlock Holmes, like I was saying, like an abridged version, like a text on one side and illustrations on the other, and that just
Sure.
totally blew my mind.
Wow.
So I got like I was always interested in detective fiction, so Agatha Christie, Sherlock Holmes, even Indian authors like detectives like Byomkesh Bakshi and Feluda.
Very nice.
So that was that took up a lot of my time.
This is a classic 90s kid. When you said Vyomkesh Bakshi, I'm thinking of all the Doordarshan days also, sitting with my family and watching all of that.
I watched that entire series like a year ago with my wife. Like we, Sunday mornings.
Couple goals. Very nice. This is lovely, yeah. So you were in Delhi till how long, and how was Delhi for you like?
It was good. So I grew up in Delhi. So 2004. So I finally, when I moved to engineering, I moved out of Delhi. So Delhi for me was like like the perception that many people have of Delhi today. Like I don't have that perception because I was like a kid growing up in Delhi, and Delhi was different then at that point in time. So it was not so overcrowded at all, and even the problems that we have today with pollution and all were not there. Anyway, so I have like very fond memories of Delhi because I grew up there, but then I didn't return to that place after 2004 at all.
Have you not been to Delhi after 2004?
I've been there, but I've never lived there.
Okay. Okay. Got it. So where did you go to after 2004?
So
in your story?
So I moved to Dhirubhai Ambani Institute of Information and Communication Technology, Gandhinagar. So I did.
All right, Gujarat.
Yeah, I did a BTech in Information and Communication Technology. There, that was the side of me which the tech geeky side is what took me there. And, I was there for 4 years. By the second year, I realized that engineering, perhaps is not for me, or slightly disenchanted with just being an engineer. I wanted to be something more than an engineer. And then I can talk more about where that took me as well. But that's what happened in engineering.
Sure, that's very interesting. So, were there are there any stories that led you to realize that this is not for me? What really was it? The curriculum? Was it lack of experimentation this time and more focus on, let's say, academy and exams?
It was very like I wouldn't say it was only the curriculum, although it was very siloed in that sense. Like you were supposed to be it was more about the company than stuff that was taught in class, I feel. Engineering in India, and I guess that might be the case elsewhere as well. I've not studied engineering abroad, so I don't know. But you're expected to be good at a certain kind of thing, at a certain skill. It can be software coding, it can be mechanical engineering, civil engineering, or whatever people do. But you're not encouraged to think outside the box to a great extent. At least that was the case when I was doing my engineering. I'm hearing stories that has changed now. But I found that the company that I was with, I was not very I didn't identify a lot with some of the folks that were there. So I had my small group of friends whom I was very comfortable with, but I felt that I there is a world outside this that I haven't discovered yet.
Wow, got it. Which is a very good realization, and I think I have seen this common pattern. People who tend to do fairly well in life, they are very good at self-awareness or finding what is it that they don't like really early in their life, which is a process of elimination, which I think in some shape or format is also just listening to cues to ourselves, right? Hey, I'm not liking this. Let me figure out something else. So you were in Dhirubhai Institute till how long, and what happened next in your story?
So something occurred to me while you were saying this. Like, it's true. People, brilliant people, discover very early in their life that what's not for them. They also discover what's for them, which was not the case with me at all. So I was not one of those. I find a lot of 20-somethings these days who have figured out life and have achieved so much at the age of 20, 24. I was not that person at all. So for most of my 20s, I was in a state of departure. I knew what I was leaving. I didn't have a good sense of where I wanted to be. And I think there were cues all along, but somehow I didn't discover that till I would say my late 20s. Yeah, go ahead.
I agree to that completely. So 2 anecdotes. First one, I think there are very few people who realize very, very early in their life what is it that they want, like the buffets of the world. With I am going to be an investor. This is what I like. This is what my shit is. And point number 2 is, for example, I have 2 tech team members working with me at GGI. Both of them undergrad students. Yesterday, I made them both talk to an tech expert with 12 years of experience. And after the call, the tech expert got back to me and said, Shatakshi, this is genius stuff. I didn't know half of this shit when I was in undergrad. It's like, dude, I agree. I didn't know half of this shit when I was in undergrad. That means that, and I think Nawal Ravikant some time ago tweeted this, that our younger generation is living in a life of abundance. And people who have even an iota of clarity of mind, not a lot, but even an iota of clarity of mind, latch on to few of these opportunities and make a bomb out of it. So I completely resonate with you that new people are just doing so many cool shit that at least I wasn't doing when I was their age. So I completely am with you.
The scholars at GGI, I had a chance to interact with them 2 years ago, as you mentioned. And some of the questions that they asked me and even things around career planning and stuff I was like, why wasn't I asking these questions when I was what was I thinking? So
no, I get that, which is just a function of a life of abundance versus a life of lack of resources, at least. And I think in your father's generation as well, they had limited choices, which is either go the UPSC path or the public services path. Now there's so many choices. Most of the people, at least the decently smart ones, are asking questions.
Correct.
That's a very good insight, that you be self-aware about yourself. What is it that you're not gaining energy, or what is it that you're draining your energy from? So what happens next after your engineering stint?
So I so my mother's side of things takes over, and I discover that I want to now get into storytelling and media is something I start thinking a bit more about. That maybe I'm the hardcore techie is not something that I want to stay all my life, so I want to explore something else, and that's what takes me to MICA, Mudra Institute of Communications, Ahmedabad, which is
Right.
one of India's leading C schools, communication schools. And like I have very good time there. I have like 2 years of like really good experimentation, doing theater, learning a lot about media, marketing. And Mica is in a class of its own. It's a very hatke institute. There's not many like Mica anywhere in the world, so, which bridge that gap between management and like slightly more
liberal arts.
Broad, yeah, liberal arts, exactly. So
when you said theater, this is a very odd comparison. I'm not sure. Have you seen this movie by Ranbir Kapoor where he joins theater after being a nerd geeky throughout his life? I'm forgetting the name of this movie.
Is it like Wake Up Sid? I don't remember which film this is.
Actually, Ranbir Kapoor tends to play such roles in a lot of movies, so you kind of like, it's with Deepika Padukone, but he finds his true self in theater.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of imagining your epiphanic moments in life where you're in front of theater, you're like, no, this is my moment, this is what I enjoy. So,
definitely,
wow.
I did. So I had a chance to direct a play in front of like an audience of 10,000 people at Natrani Theatre in Ahmedabad, which is run by Malika Sarabhai. So like that was, to do that at the age of 24 was a great sort of feeling, and it was like one of the most amazing moments of my life, definitely.
Highlight.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay. And where does life after Mica take you?
So I was totally convinced that I now wanted to work in the entertainment industry, and I didn't apply anywhere else. I went to Sony Pictures Networks India, which was one of my top companies, and I worked there in the research and strategy function. So my job was to basically do two things. One, to look at a lot of numbers and analyze like where we should as a network be going next, but also very interestingly traveling around the country and talking to consumers about what they wanted to see on television. So that's what I started my career doing on the
very nice. So were you traveling to tier 2, tier 3 cities in India?
I was trying to villages, tier 2 cities, staying there for like a week, 2 weeks. So
of visits.
Visits, yeah, and staying at like some very shady hotels.
Which cities were these? If you could share which states were these, and how was it like to interact with them? Share some anecdotes.
No, it was great. I traveled to cities like Farrukhabad, that was like small town in UP. I traveled to many places in Punjab, near Ludhiana, Gujarat as well. And like, for example, just to share an anecdote, I used to work on Banega, Crorepati as well. So a lot of the research that we used to do was like, what do we want to showcase in a new season of Banega, Crorepati? And really, like, this was very exploratory research where we would go and talk to women and men, but women mainly, because that was the audience, and really ask them about like what KBC meant to them, what they wanted to see on television, how it had made a difference in their lives, and some of the insights that I got in towns such as Farrukhabad in UP, like I still remember to them to this very day, and it gives me goosebumps. So I can tell you an example if
we would love to. Yes.
Yeah. So I remember like talking to a woman and asking her what difference KBC has made to her life, and she told me that before KBC, I would not sit in the same room as my father-in-law. But now, because of the fact that we watch KBC together, I can sit with him, have a conversation with him, and now sometimes when he goes out for something to the market, he even asks me if I need something. So we have developed a connection just because of the show, and that's like and that's what like it sort of taught me that television and like content, it goes a lot deeper than just entertainment. It holds a
manages social stigma.
Definitely.
This is just so true. I think in today's day and age, the newer version of KBC, Shark Tank India, I'm not sure if you have watched it, but I can hold conversations about equity and investment with my mother-in-law and with my parents as well. And I just at times pinch myself. I am 31 and having these conversations about entrepreneurship and investment, cap tables with my parents and parents-in-law. It's like, okay, is this for real? Which is very true that television as a medium, no matter how OTT picks up and whatnot, will continue to penetrate the, I think, older generation and the tier 2, tier 3 cities in this country.
Correct.
Do you have any insight that you and your team brought out which made a change in the show as well?
Many. So,
Wow.
for example, like, yeah, I'm not bragging, like, but that was the work that we did. We used to come up with insights.
I would brag if I were you. Go on.
No. So, for example, like if you remember, like from season 5 or season 6, KBC started showing like a 5-minute backdrop of the person's life story.
Yes.
So that was something that came as an insight where people basically like really wanted to know the story behind a person before they sat on the hot seat. So letting people know like what odds they have countered in their lives to be here visiting Amitabh Bachchan was really intriguing to the audience, and that's something that we introduced as an element of the show and was very popular.
But were you ever able to make it to the set as well?
Oh, many times, yeah. So.
You've seen Amitabh Bachchan up close there.
Right. I have many times. I took my entire family as well.
Oh, nice. This is a full circle. Mama, Papa now coming to the proud.
Oh, not just Mama, Papa, like grandparents, other friends' grandparents, and everyone wanted to meet Amitabh Bachchan. Yeah, so.
I'm sure. This is really cool shit. Okay, perfect. So, how many years did you spend at Sony, and what was next for you in your story?
So, Sony, I was there for 4 years. And then I moved to TV18. So, I started working for what is called the History Channel.
Nice.
And then I worked there for 3 years. Again, in a strategy role, but I started spending a lot of time on our digital products as well.
Sure.
Which kind of very funnily in my case brought back the old tech geek in me and kind of thinking that I am passionate about entertainment, I love this, but at the same time I also want to be more connected to myself as an engineer. So
very nice.
So that happened till 2018 roughly.
So talk me through what was your new work like where you felt that your both past and present were kind of intertwining to make you feel more satisfied?
So that's a very good question, and I don't think I have I'll be very honest with you. For me, it has been always important to enjoy the company of the people that I'm working with, and I feel most comfortable when I'm the least smart person in the room. So if I'm with like smart people around me, I'm winning. If that's not the case, I'm losing. So I somehow did not feel I felt that some of the things that I was passionate about and like at the pace that I wanted to move, like I wasn't getting that kind of exposure there. And although I enjoyed the entertainment aspect of it, so we launched a lot of new shows on history at that particular point in time, and but the work that I was doing was not challenging enough to feel like every morning waking up and feeling excited about going to work. That wasn't happening at all I would say from 2016 to 17, and that really pushed me to like think like what next, like where do I want to be, and that's what got me to the next stage of my career, I would say.
You are explaining or narrating the story like the true storyteller, which is that the audience is now on its toes and they want to know what's next. So what's next for Abhinav Krishna?
I'm telling you, anyone who has written MBA essays in their life has a very clear sense of how their life has progressed so far.
I agree. I always say this, that if there is one thing that MBA taught me, which is just storytelling.
True.
To get to know. Sorry, yes.
And self-introspection. Like it gives you, it makes you zoom out and see your story as well.
I agree. And which is where I think my fight and our fight collectively, and you've been a fantastic champion of GGI as well, has been against the Indian education ecosystem. So you might not know this because you taught the product management masterclass. We have a creative writing masterclass as well. We are not teaching Indians how to write, right? Which is the entire Ivy League ecosystem, that you need to write good essays to get your foot inside our ecosystem. And that, I think, self-introspection writing eventually leads people like you and me to go to other places as well. So I'm completely with you. I think there is one thing that MBA application teaches you, which is just fantastic storytelling.
And not just at like MBAs, like I realize at my job, if there's one skill which is like most useful, which I would rate as like the top skill that like product managers require, I would say it's writing.
Sure.
Wow. Yeah,
and we will talk about that. I have a lot of questions with your journey in PM as well. But taking a step back, what happened next?
So next, I basically decided that I wanted to work in the tech space. I realized that a lot of the work that I was doing in the entertainment industry coincided with product management. And that's when I realized that product management in tech is something that I want to do next.
Which year is this?
This is like I started realizing this in a proper way, I would say 2016. Like, I want to move.
I think PM was just picking up back then, 2016, 2017.
It is. Yeah. So I discovered things very late, like I mentioned. Like I have a
Not at all. I think I feel that you figured it out early, but I think I'm just thinking from the side of a user or the audience. How did you find PM? And I'm asking that question because there will be careers parallel to PM, which are just emerging right now, which are not as hot as PM today is. It can just teach someone the process of finding new careers. So how did you find PM?
It was a time of exploration. So in 2016, when I realized like that I want to do something, and maybe an MBA abroad would be the right thing for me, my first step is to talk to as many people as I can. So I was literally talking to, like I would say, no kidding, like 5 people every week in different business schools in the US, in Europe, elsewhere as well. And researching.
And how did you reach out to them?
On LinkedIn. So I would say like.
What was your response rate?
So 10, if you reach out to 10 people, 3 people will respond, and with one you'll be able to schedule a call.
That is the reason I'm asking that. I think I also do that very, very often, but I think people just have so much inhibition because they get rejected a lot. Right. When they hear from you, they will just get so much inspiration ki, I also need to do this homework.
Okay. Definitely. I mean, you can't expect more than a 10% strike rate, but that's perfectly fine. Like reach out to 100 people, you'll be able to have conversations with 10 people then.
I agree.
And that's something that I did. I took like the LinkedIn premium subscription, and I wrote very polite, not being pushy at all, but like also like finding people that that you would expect that they would also want to talk to you. So people who have been at the intersection of entertainment and product management, or people who have done engineering and then something related to entertainment or media, and then product management. So finding people who have like traversed the journey that I want to sort of traverse next was also important there. So I did a lot of research, a lot of conversations, then also a lot of just internet searches around like what are the skills that I have and what careers do they sort of match with. And I knew like product management was something that I realized that a lot of the work that I was doing was product management to begin with. I wasn't in a text sort of setup, but it was close to product management. And that's what and after talking to people as well, that's what convinced me that that's where I want to move next.
Got it. So this led you to join NYU. Is that the right part of the story? And what was the entire process of landing at NYU was like? Did you apply to a lot of schools? Did you eventually just land at NYU? Did you have other offers as well? Focus through that journey. Reason being, I really like your story, and I mean this, Abhinav. I think you're one of the very few people who are humble to be where you are, right? Which kind of doesn't give a lot of information to someone who's like, if this guy has cracked it, let me figure out how. So how did you eventually land there?
And I don't mean to be humble at all. It's just that like I'm willing to take everyone like and talk about like how I landed upon these things. It wasn't magic. So I didn't have like some people have like role models that they emulate, or they have like I don't know other things that can help them. For me, it was a process of self-discovery all along. It still is to a great extent. Now I think I have role models and I have like mentors, but I didn't at that point in time. Anyway, to get back to what I was saying. So yeah, I decided that I wanted to sort of work in product management and work in the tech space, US was very clear. Like US versus Europe was something that I wrestled with for
Sure.
a few months. But then I realized that if I want to work in tech, if I would rather work at the headquarters of a company than
Makes
anywhere
sense.
else, and that made US the obvious choice. And then it was really for me to find schools which were at the intersection of things that I was passionate about, such as media,
Sure.
entertainment, content. But at the
Sure.
same time, they were strong generic business schools. So they will
Sure.
give me the foundation that I need in terms of finance or general principles around marketing,
Sure.
things like that, entrepreneurship. So NYU, like I applied to multiple places, failed
Sure.
miserably in the first year because I didn't know how to write, like I mentioned.
Sure.
Then I really, the next year I got my I put a lot more hours into writing and rewriting my essays, send that to a lot of people for reviews, got
Feedback.
feedback. And that's when like I got admits from like three US schools.
Sure.
There were other schools which were there as well, as good as NYU. But
Okay.
NYU was pretty, like I was pretty clear that I wanted to be in New York University because of the fact that it was,
Right.
first of all, New York.
New York. Yes.
Who gives up a chance to be in New York as a
I
student
agree.
with
Yes,
so much
I
time
agree.
for 2 years? So nobody does that. That like if you talk about regret minimization, that's not
I
something
agree.
you should do.
I agree. Yes.
And second, like
So
I was,
how was? Yes.
no,
Continue.
I was just saying, like from the career point of view, New York was like at the center of a lot of things that I was
I
interested in.
agree. Yes. Talk me through your 2 years in New York. I suppose it's a 2-year degree, right?
Correct.
How were 2 years like? Were you broke many a times? How did you now find the kind of people you were rubbing shoulders against? What kind of self-exploration now this time you went through?
It was like I realized within 2 or 3 weeks of being at NYU that like I wanted to be here. Like I really
Nice.
should have, like this is the right choice that I have made because of the
Sure.
fact that I was in a room where almost everyone was smarter than me,
Very nice.
and that was very comforting to me in a way. So I was like,
Sure.
finally, I'm going to be the least smart person
Learning.
in the room, and I'm going to be learning. I'm going to be winning. So that was good. It was like the 2 years at NYU was like it was every bit as I expected, if not better.
Sure.
There's of course the academic and the career side to being in New York, and NYU Stern like gives you a lot of those opportunities, but also from personal point of view, being like outside India for the first time in my life, not on a vacation,
Sure.
but really
Right.
living somewhere outside, was a very special experience.
Sure.
Interacting with people from all around the globe, because
Right.
New York is not it's not one place. It's like the world
Correct.
pressed into
I
a city,
agree.
right?
Yes.
So that was a very special experience. And again, like I said, like living there as a student more than a professional was even more special because you generally tend to have more time as a student,
Correct.
which you don't have when you're working like Monday to Friday. So
I agree.
really special 2 years, I would say.
I've been to New York thrice, and I don't know the last time I went there. And I told this to Naman also. There is some calling in me that I want to spend 1 year of my life just in New York. The city has some really cool vibe. If you could talk me through one highlight of your NYU University where you felt like, oh, I'm killing it in life. Oh, I'm having this 3 idiot moment that I'm learning in life. So if you could walk us through that.
Yeah, like there were many at NYU such as that actually, but I got to like because I was in New York because NYU Stern, like one of the things that business school gives you is access, right? Like that's what
Correct.
one of the things that you invest into, like in terms of money, in terms of time, in terms of everything. And I got the chance to work with Spotify. So they were headquartered there, and
Sure.
they were introducing podcasts on the app for the first time, and they needed
Sure.
business school folks to basically work with them and come up with like a marketing strategy for how they should do
Nice.
it. And
Sure.
like working with actual like Spotify leadership for like a 2 or 3 month project where we would interact with them every week, every 2 weeks was really special. And
Sure.
my team also happened to win. Like there were multiple teams that presented, and my team won the competition, the mini competition that we had. at the end of
Nice.
the period. So that experience was really special. I don't think I would have had that experience anywhere else in the world. And for
I
me,
agree.
someone who's like passionate about entertainment content, to
Yes.
be doing that with Spotify was
I
just
agree.
a lot of fun.
It's a deal maker. I
Yeah.
agree. Perfect. So, Abhinav, given the fact that you were at NYU, right? Did the chance or the thought of doing consulting ever occur to you, right? Or were you very clear कि नहीं यार PM ही करना है? So, what kind of conundrums were you going through?
No, definitely. So I'll tell you, like as an international student, and I think that's the case even now. It was definitely the case when I came to the US in 2018. Like you want to have a plan B and a plan C and a plan D.
Yes.
And even if you're like, even if you're like deeply passionate about something, it'd just be arrogant for you to say that this is like there are people who make that choice, and I respect that. But
Sure.
like for me, I felt that that would be very very risky, given the reality
Sure.
of the US, visa system, and
Right.
given the range of employers that you have available as an international student. So for me, it was plan A was product management, plan B was consulting, and within consulting also, I wanted to work on, like if I got employed there, I wanted to work on the tech side of things, and
Sure.
then I had a plan C and a plan D as well. So
What was that?
so plan C was work for media, get back into the media
Okay.
space. I was of course in New
Sure.
York. Plan D was, I don't know, I don't even remember what it was, but there was a plan D as well.
Okay. Sure. No, that I recall my similar ISB journey. I came from government background. I loved my job when I was leaving for ISB, and I vividly remember telling myself I will not settle for anything for the heck of just getting a bigger paycheck. I'm more than happy to go back and join my job at just a marginal return on the paycheck, which is where I think people like you and me, we are also over indexing on the kind of people we surround ourselves with, the kind of work we want to do because we want this to be higher energy. So you joined Amazon directly after NYU, if I'm not wrong?
I did. So I interned at Amazon at the end of my first year.
Which year was this?
This was 2019.
2019. And you're still with Amazon?
Yeah, I got the offer to return full time, and I joined Amazon as a full time employee in 2020.
Got it. Perfect. So if you could very briefly talk me through what do you really do, and of course I know that there could be confidentiality, etc., involved with Amazon work as well. What do you really do at Amazon?
So I joined initially in what is called the customer service organization, and I was working on the refunds and replacement space. So every time you have a bad experience with Amazon and you go onto the app and try to get like a refund or a replacement, the tech and policy that sort of powers that is something that my team used to look into. And my job there, I was there in that team for around 1.5 years, was to basically automate a lot of that, to give customers the chance to sort of service themselves, get like to do it on your own.
Auto, yes.
Right. I moved to Alexa in January of this year. I just wanted to look for something that I used on a regular basis, and Alexa was something that I had been using for a lot many years. Also wanted to work on something a little more like direct customer facing. That's what got me to Alexa. And here I have been, basically what I do now is build conversational technology that can help Alexa answer information seeking questions from customers using the information that is available on the world.
To answer. Just get my attention.
I just activated Alexa.
I like that, which is a live demo of your product. This is so cool. I really like that. She's been like, you've been calling my name so many times, dude. I better respond.
It was time she responded. Yeah.
I agree.
So yeah, what I do is basically build tech that helps her answer questions from information sourced from the World Wide Web. So it's org is called the Alexa AI org.
Correct. So if I understand this, my understanding of Alexa is whatever is available on Google. The algorithm fetches information from Google and picks up the most highly ranked web page and produces the information. So are you saying that in today's day and world, if there is an information on internet, Alexa still may not be able to answer it, and that process is continuous for it to be able to answer anything and everything from internet? Do I understand this right?
Correct. And we don't like we Alexa does everything on its own. So that entire internet search technology is something that Alexa
Sure.
has developed on its own. And then like it's not just like internet search, right? It's also about how you present that information in the spoken word to the customer.
Sure.
That is something that yeah, Alexa does.
Correct. I have just one question, and that's coming from a place of consumer curiosity. What is the value of Alexa in today's day and world? Apart from me being hypothetically extremely lazy and not going on Google, what purpose does it solve in the world?
And that's a great question, and that's a question that we are always answering. And Alexa is
Sure.
the idea is for Alexa to push the boundaries of what people use it for. So currently,
Okay.
for example, I use Alexa as a digital assistant. So
Okay.
if there's something that I want to know about the weather, if I want to set reminders, if I have if I want to know the score of yesterday's match, instead of me pulling out my phone and typing out questions, I have
Sure.
someone that I can ask in a very normal tone, like I'm talking to you right now,
Sure.
and get that question answered. So it's
Got it.
and like that's just the Q&A part of it. There
Yes.
are other aspects to Alexa as well, like for example, controlling the devices in your house, for example, or
Sure.
like operating security devices. So Alexa
Sure.
basically, like it's supposed to be, and it is in many ways, it's still evolving, a sort of digital assistant that you have at your disposal.
Sure. Do you anticipate a time where you guys could inculcate an emotional quotient in her, where she could also become a buddy or a friend in future?
Definitely. I mean that is
Wow.
like, as we progress, as AI becomes smarter and smarter, that would eventually happen. So you want AI to be as close to, like, it's artificial intelligence.
Correct.
And,
Yes.
and intelligence includes emotional intelligence as well.
Correct.
It's not
Yes.
just like what you know, but how also you express that sort of fact or that emotion. So yeah, in the future, there's already that happening to a great extent. It'll happen
Wow. Okay.
more in the coming time, I would say.
I'm kind of tying this to the loneliness epidemic which is coming up, which is already existing. In fact, it will just go bad. So I'm not sure if having a friend like Alexa is a good deal or a bad deal, which is like you have a friend, but guess what? You really don't have a friend. So kind of a cyclical process. With that, Abhinav, I think I would want to understand more PM related understanding from you. I genuinely believe in the world of consulting public policy. PM is one of the coolest jobs, which may not require a degree as such. And I could be wrong as well. Because at the heart of things, I think you're creating something. It's not a client facing role where you have to tell the client that, hey, Abhinav is from NYU, Shatakshi is from ISB, so good pedigree, right? PM is at the heart of things, creating things. Do you think there are jobs in today's day and world and in future as well where postgraduate and especially undergraduation may not be even required? What is your view on that? Value of degree in PM?
That is already happening to a great extent, I would say.
Wow. Okay.
So you're right. It would happen even more so in the coming time. But it already
does it happen at Amazon or other places?
Yeah, it does. So at any, like, you're like, the fact that I'm an NYU grad is useful only to get me to a place such as that. But
sure.
After, say, your first 6 months or your first year, you're judged on your performance.
Correct.
And like I have, like, and the product management industry is full of individuals who don't have fancy degrees at all, who have not done, like, MBAs at like big B schools, or who don't have even like a very, like, I have seen like liberal arts grads become very good
nice.
later in their career. So like more and more we would see sort of like people realizing that they actually don't need a sophisticated degree to be in product management. A lot of the people already realize that, but it'll happen even more and more, I would say, in the coming time.
Fair enough. Even that's my hypothesis. Let's talk about social issues such as drug abuse in US and its application or its solution from PM point of view. Do you think product managers could also look at social issues like drug abuse? If you were to look at it, how would you think about, let's say, the landscaping of it or the solutioning part of it? I'm just thinking out loud.
Right, I'm not very familiar with the drug abuse, so I'll not pretend that I know a lot about the issue when I don't. But like effectively, if you're asking like whether we can apply product management principles to solve a problem such as that, yes, we definitely can. So there is it's a false understanding that product management is a tech only function. It's a very generic. It's like consulting. So when you say consultant, you're just saying that I consult with companies for certain things. So when you're doing when you're saying you're doing product management, you're managing products. Now those products can be tech products or non-tech products. They can be in the social space. They can be in any space possible. In the end, like what are like some of the things that are like that sort of define product management? I would say being customer focused is one, being data focused is another, and having deep empathy with the people that you're working with is the third. Like these are the three things that really I would say are very fundamental, at least from my experience, as a product manager, and those are very essential no matter what problem you're solving, I would say.
I completely agree. I think of Afghanistan, I think of Vietnam, and I genuinely believe if basics of product management principles would have been applied, then there would have been more localized solutions than imposing them with solutions that the Western world felt is the right one, and then perhaps leaving them high and dry. At times my heart go really deep to the people of Afghanistan, right from 1990s when Russia invaded to now. What has changed? Largely it has just deteriorated, right, because of so many attacks, which is where I really like your philosophy that PM could be applied to any problem, even policy problem. Don't just impose an answer to someone who does not have a voice. Hear them out and perhaps create a much more localized answer.
Yeah, something. In fact, thinking about like making a working backwards plan. Where do you want something to be in like 6 months time, 2 years time, 5 years time, 10 years time, and working backwards from where you want to be is a classic product management principle, and it can be applied to so many problems that we're dealing with.
I really like also, Abhinav, what you said of PM only in tech, right? I want to burst some myths here on PM in tech versus non-tech. Could you help explain two things? What is the distinction in the job profile? And point number two, can a non-techie become a PM in tech? What is your answer based on your experiences so far?
So first, what the differences are, I would say, and that kind of answers the second question as well. You are to some extent by many teams, companies, like the expectation is that you would have a computer science degree and that you would have worked in tech, but not all companies have that expectation. So if you're a non-techie who's interested in like PM roles, think about companies which would be open to non-tech backgrounds as well. There are many such as that. And that's why, like, to answer the second question, it is indeed possible for non-techies to get into tech product management if they want to. Because essentially what differentiates non-tech product management with tech product management is not like, of course, to some extent there is like technical proficiency, but where does technical proficiency come from? From having curiosity towards the technical side of things. So if you're a person who doesn't have a computer science degree, do you like you can actually take active steps to show technical curiosity and develop a minimum standard of technical proficiency that would help you become a tech PM if you want to.
I really like that answer, which is that even if you might not have a degree, you could develop that curiosity and that bend of mind. Do you talk in the language of code to your software development team often?
Not often. Like what
Okay,
product managers are expected to do is to like look at the system design choices. That's something that you
sure,
would want to be part of the conversations of.
sure.
But actual code, no, that's not
Okay,
the,
got it.
yeah, kind of micro sort of viewpoint that I typically have had.
Got it. Fair enough. My last understanding, Abhinav, that I wanted to build from you, which is kind of where you are also in your life right now, which is the working conditions for Indians abroad. Uh, what are your circumstances? I see that you're married. I think people who are not married, do they suffer from a little bit of loneliness? Are there any other struggles for Indians in abroad? So, what are the general working conditions for Indians abroad in your micro story? And if you have a general view as well, based from your friends, chats, etc.
So there are pros and cons to that. And I'll speak about the pros first. Like America and generally being away from India can liberate you in many ways. Because if you're from, um, even if you, like I'm from Delhi, you've always had aunts and uncles and neighbors in your life all the time, people being very nosy about what you're doing and what you're not doing, and that is the case if that is also the case if you're from like small towns in India, and
Yes.
people who have suffered from discrimination find it very liberating to come to the US, where people don't care which caste or creed or region that you belong to. Your talent speaks for itself. People don't tell you how to dress and how not to dress. So these are things that can be very liberating when you come to a place like the US, and I think a lot of the Indians who come to the US really enjoy that aspect, like that freedom of being able to do what you really want to. Having said that, like you kind of touched upon it, the the immigration system that we currently have in the US, given the amount of Indians that are applying to come to the number of Indians who are applying to come to the US as students, as working professionals, and given also the amount of abuse that many Indians have done to that system, there has been that whole system and like that whole process has a lot of tension associated with it. So there is a stress and a sort of price that you have to pay if you're an international student interested in either studying in the US or working here. From the point of view of like investing in large loans, if you don't get scholarship, also staying away from home for a long time, like during COVID, for example, I couldn't travel back to India, meet my family for a long time.
Sure.
That's not a reality that I had to live with. I know many people who had to suffer worse
Correct.
because of that. So those are grim realities of being an expat as well, I would say.
Correct. Very beautifully articulated answer. I completely resonate with you as well. As someone who has lived 1.5 years of my life in US, I also found it to be very liberating from that nosiness standpoint. But of course, there are benefits and downsides both. If you live in a community, the community stands by you. It's like in case the village raises the child, right? But when the child is an adult, now that adult might have a lot of problems with that. So both sides are completely valid. I have a follow-up question to what you said about immigrants abusing that ecosystem. So do you? So that's a new piece of information for me. So do you have examples of what kind of nuances Indian students or international students do with the ecosystem that make others who are just being disciplined about it get the impact of it?
Oh, definitely. I have heard and I know of people who would place like 5 H1B petitions for the lottery, for the H1B lottery. I've known people who stay on an F1 visa, extend their visa by enrolling in some um, not legal, not strictly legal sort of universities. There are people, and there have been sort of um, uh, clampdowns on such happenings in the past. But that continues to happen. It's a much bigger problem than one clampdown can sort of solve. And that's what really like prevents a lot of the people who enter the US and who come to the US, in a very organized, ambitious individuals who come to the US in very through the proper channels. It makes life very, very difficult for them.
Fair enough. That's a fair answer. I have a last question for you. I'm just being once again very curious. Do you intend to come back ever?
I do. And I know
your mother is listening to the podcast. That's why you're giving this answer.
Not at all. Though she'd be glad to hear.
Okay.
Yeah, to hear me say that. But there are many people who say that, and like people don't miss a chance to tell me that, hey, okay, let's talk 5 years from now, or let's talk 10 years from now. But I feel that the India of today is very different from what it used to be in the 90s, pre-liberalization, even post-liberalization in the 90s. So I, for example, came from Bombay. I lived there for 7 years before coming to the US. And honestly, there are things that I find the US very fascinating in, like much ahead of India, and of course, but there are things that are very difficult in the US, and India is in many ways, at least in big cities such as Bombay and Bangalore and other places such as that, much ahead of many things happening here. And all the good news that we hear about the startup ecosystem in India, like people generally just having a lot more courage and a lot more sort of enterprise. It's just like this decision of whether to stay abroad or go back to India. It's a lot simpler than what, or it's a lot more difficult now, I would say, in fact, than what it was earlier. Like people would like earlier, if there was someone who was returning to India, you could be very, very sure that they would have had some visa trouble, or they would have had some, like maybe they were laid off and like they had to come back to India. So if people almost like had that like sympathetic look, oh, something bad happened to them, but that's not this anymore. I know so many smart, bright people who have made a very conscious choice to go back to India and sort of start a life there, and they're doing very well. They're very happy with that decision. So I see a lot more of that happening in the next 5 or 10 years. So which hopefully will include me as well.
Wow. I'm completely with you. Yeah, 2 points to react to that. I have an acquaintance from St. Stephen's College. He went to HBS. I met him briefly. He consciously came back to India. He's working in SoftBank now. And this is what he also said, that even though the quality of life in US is better, but the opportunities in India are just emerging left, right, and center. And the second thing is, I truly mean this from the bottom of my heart. If I, as a woman from a middle class background, can start a venture, anyone can. Which is that the ecosystem has just been simplified so much that the barrier to entry are just way, way less. My father is just many a times mesmerized. At one point of time, he wanted to be an entrepreneur. He says that the legalization rules we had versus you, they are promoting every youngster to become a founder, or at least if not a founder, join startups and become part of that. Abhinav, I have loved to know. Sorry, you're saying something.
No, I was saying it's you being humble now, Shatakshi. I think
I'm learning from you.
No, what you someone have achieved with GGI is great, and
kind of,
and of course, like I understand, like the need to be humble, but it's quite remarkable what you both have done with GGI in the last couple of years.
All thanks to people like you, Abhinav, who have been an ardent supporter. And I mean this, I am starting my Monday morning on a very, very good note by hearing all your stories. And they're just so honest. I could just visualize them already. Thank you so much for taking out your Sunday night. Apologies to your wife that we stole you for a few hours on a weekend night. Say my hi to her. And if you have any last words for our audience, happy to hear that.
No, definitely. Thanks for having me here. It was a very enjoyable sort of chat. Happy to interact more with you and other folks at GGI.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Abhinav. Ciao.
Bye-bye. Have a good day.
Alright, I hope this was helpful. And I've always maintained if you need more help to 100x your chances to get into management consulting, public policy, and product management, feel free to check out my education venture, globalgovernance-initiative.org, where we run an impact fellowship program and an alt MBA program. And if you like this video, feel free to give it a thumbs up and of course share it with your friends so that they get to know about all the cool, interesting, and insightful content I'm bringing out for all of you absolutely free of cost. Ciao.